Imagine someone spends 6 months of savings, not on rent, not on a vacation, not on anything practical, on making their car louder, lower, and more aggressive. Their family thinks they've lost their mind. Their coworkers laugh. And yet, they've never felt more like themselves.
That's not obsession. That's psychology. Most people look at a modified car and see a machine. What they're actually looking at is a person. Every bolt, every custom panel, every color choice is a decision made from somewhere deep inside, a place where words don't quite reach. Human beings have always needed to signal who they are to the world. Thousands of years ago, it was war paint and tribal markings. Today, for millions of people, it's a car. And the psychology behind why is far more complex, far more emotional, and far more human than anyone gives it credit for. Let's start with something called the extended self. In 1988, consumer psychologist Russell Belk introduced this concept, the idea that we don't just own possessions, we absorb them into our identity. We become them. Your car isn't just something you drive. For many people, it becomes a literal part of how they define who they are. Take that car away, and you're not just inconveniencing them, you're threatening their sense of self. Now, multiply that by modification. When someone strips a car down to its frame and rebuilds it according to their own vision, they're not customizing metal. They're sculpting an identity. They are creating the most honest version of themselves they know how to express. Because for a lot of people, that car says the things they could never say out loud. Think about the person who grew up in a house where they were never seen, where blending in wasn't a social strategy, it was a survival mechanism. They learned to be invisible. But something inside them never stopped screaming to be noticed, to be recognized, to matter. That modified car with the wide body kit and the aggressive stance isn't vanity. It's the loudest they've ever been allowed to speak. And then there's the opposite type, the person who builds something subtle, refined, quietly perfect, a tastefully lowered sedan with factory-matching paint but upgraded everything underneath.
You'd almost miss it if you didn't know what to look for. That's intentional. That person is saying something very specific. I don't need your validation. I know exactly what I am. This is for me, not for you. Both of these people are using the same language, just different dialects.
Psychologists who study personality consistently find that the need for uniqueness is a fundamental human drive. We want to stand apart from the crowd while still belonging to it. It's a tension that sits at the heart of human social behavior. Modified car culture solves that tension brilliantly. You belong to a community of enthusiasts. You have your tribe, your shared language, your mutual respect. But within that community, your build is yours. Nobody else has exactly what you have. That combination of belonging and individuality is psychologically intoxicating. There's also something important happening at the neurological level. The act of building, of problem-solving, planning, and physically transforming something activates deep reward circuits in the brain. Dopamine doesn't just fire when you finish the project. It fires every single time you make a decision, solve a problem, install a part correctly. The garage becomes a place where a person feels genuinely competent, genuinely capable. For someone whose daily life feels chaotic or out of their control, that feeling is more than satisfying. It's medicine. Control is a bigger factor here than most people realize. Research in behavioral psychology shows that people who feel a low sense of agency in their lives, those who feel pushed around by circumstances, by other people, by systems too big to fight, often channel enormous energy into domains where they can exercise complete control. And what is more controllable than a car you're building with your own hands? Every decision is yours. Nobody overrules you. Nobody second guesses you. In that garage, you are the architect of everything. Now let's talk about community, because this is where something genuinely beautiful happens in the psychology of car culture. Human beings are wired for belonging. We spent hundreds of thousands of years in small tribes where being excluded was literally life-threatening. That ancient need didn't disappear. It just found new containers. Car meets, online forums, local clubs, and track days are all, at their psychological core, tribal gatherings. They are places where people show up and say, "Here is my truest self." And the group says, "We see you.
We respect what you built. You belong here. For people who have never found that kind of acceptance elsewhere, and there are more of them than you might think, that experience is transformative. Studies on social belonging consistently show that feeling genuinely accepted by a group produces measurable improvements in mental health, self-esteem, and even physical well-being. Car culture, for all its noise and oil and obsessive technical debate, is quietly doing a lot of therapeutic work for a lot of people.
There's also an attachment dimension that's deeply worth understanding. Psychologists have found that the way people relate to their vehicles closely mirrors their broader attachment styles. People with secure attachment tend to build cars they enjoy without obsessing over others' opinions. People with anxious attachment often seek constant external validation. They need the compliments at the car meet, the likes on Instagram, the reaction on the street. And people with avoidant attachment sometimes build the most technically sophisticated, privately meaningful machines, and then feel almost uncomfortable when others pay too much attention to it. Your relationship with your car reflects your relationship with yourself. And then there's what happens when someone is told to stop, when a partner gives an ultimatum, when finances force a sale, when a car gets totaled. The grief is real. It's not melodrama. It's not being too attached to a thing. It's the loss of a self-constructed identity artifact, something that took years to build, layer by layer, decision by decision, late night by late night. Losing that car can feel like losing a piece of who you actually are, because functionally, psychologically, that's exactly what it is. What's remarkable is how little of this people are consciously aware of while they're living it. Ask most car enthusiasts why they build, and they'll talk about performance specs, or the satisfaction of learning a new skill, or just loving the way something looks. Very few will say, I grew up feeling powerless, and this is how I reclaim agency. Almost none will say, I never felt like I belonged anywhere until I found this community. But strip away the technical language, and that's almost always the story underneath. Human behavior is rarely about what it appears to be about on the surface. The car is never just a car. The modification is never just for horsepower. The hours in the garage, the money that makes no rational sense, the obsessive research at midnight. All of it is a person trying to answer one of the oldest questions in human experience. Who am I? And how do I show that to the world? Car modification is just one of the most honest answers anyone has ever given. And the next time you see a heavily modified car rolling down the street, before you judge the taste, before you question the practicality, before you wonder why anyone would do that to a perfectly good vehicle, consider what you're actually looking at. You're looking at someone's inner world, made physical. You're looking at years of emotion, identity, and desire that had nowhere else to go. You're looking at a person who figured out how to translate who they are into something you can see, hear, and feel from 50 feet away. Most people never figure out how to do that at all.